want to say thank you all for joining us once again today to learn more about project management. This session today, we're going to be talking about how you get your project management career kickstarted in 2024. And we'll also take questions at the end if you've got questions. So please feel free, pile your questions up, and then we'll take questions at the end. And please follow us, like, share on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter. And this year, we're going to be providing a lot of free content on this channel so you can learn more about project management. This session today is divided into 3 sections. So for the 3 sections, we're going to talk generally about what a project is first, which is how I like to start, because not everybody is on the same page when it comes to what project management is. The second thing we're going to talk about is trends. So we'll talk about trends. What are the trends that are happening in project management now? And how do I get things started? What are the things I should look out for, right, in my career? And then for me to be able to launch the career that I've desired for myself. And then finally, we'll talk about, hands-on project management. For those who need help, how can we help you get that role that you want? Okay, so let's get started by talking about what a project is this morning. So what's a project? In the concept of something organized, right? A project is typically a set of tasks you have to complete, you have to, get completed in a fixed period so that you're getting a deliverable. And I know most of the people who are on the call today are people of African descent. And in the context of Africa, we really, especially looking at our educational systems don't define projects. We don't really get to work on projects early in life, right? In North America, though, or in Europe, you find kids already working on projects as early as grade 1. They already know what a project is, more or less. If they don't know what a project is entirely, they have an understanding of what a project is. So projects, a set of tasks that you must complete within a fixed period to arrive at a specific deliverables. And projects are temporary efforts to create value through unique products, services, and processes. This is the Project Management Institute's definition of what a project is. So in short, a project could be something as basic as as basic as you want to try maybe a new food, right? So you try to cook it, so you buy the ingredients, so there's an initiation process, there's a planning to eat, you have what's called the execution when you're cooking the food. And then for those who have attended some of my sessions or my classes, I like to use food as an analogy because people connect very easily to what food is. So a project can be as simple as that, right? You're trying a new dish, and what you're doing is, in starting, you try to understand, okay, so this is the scope of what I want to cook. I want to try maybe a new dish for the first time, and then you go through the different stages of a project the way a project should be. However, what's missing in that is you're not documenting, right? A project could also be, I know a lot of people who will be on the call today are people who migrated. So migrating from wherever you came from to where you are today could also be a project, because you had a plan in mind. You applied for maybe if it's in Canada, for example, you applied for the express entry, and then you went through that process, right? It's temporary. Traveling is not forever. So you applied for a visa, they gave you the visa, you packed your bags, you had a date scheduled for your flight, you arrived where you're going, moved into a house, project closed. So the traveling project is done, or the migration project is done, and then you're good to go into the next phase of what you're doing. So more or less, that's what a project is, if we look at it from a structured view and in an unstructured view. Like I said, this session today is broken down into 3 parts. Number 1 is, let's get a general understanding of what a project is. The second piece will talk about, the trends in project management in 2024 or 2023, getting into 2024 that you want to take a look at in building your own career. And then we'll talk about, hands-on project management and how can I get started. So now that we have an understanding of what a project is, what then is project management? So project management now goes into how you apply the processes, the methods, the skills, the knowledge, and the experience to achieve specific objective. We spoke about, migrating the other time. So that migration itself is a specific objective, right? That you want to achieve according to the project acceptance criteria. What is an acceptance criteria? Acceptance criteria are the things that would make the stakeholders accept the project. What's our definition of done, more or less, right? How do we know that this is done and this is what we planned to do originally, right? So those are more or less like basic acceptance criteria understanding. So, and then within agreed parameters, right? So you have a project can't continue forever. You have to have a clear scope definition. You have to have a clear schedule, right? So we start in January, we end in December. Very clear. So there's a clear parameter. And then you also have what's called baseline. So you have like cost baselines, schedule baselines, and so on and so forth. So all that will be what's called your parameters. And that's what project management does. So project management brings it together under the management umbrella, and then you're able to use that to get your career started. Okay. Now that we understand what a project is, we know what project management is. Who is a project manager? Project manager leads a project from ideation to closure and manage resources. I laugh a lot when I see this definition because it's a very simple definition and it looks very easy, right? Just, get something, manage something from the beginning and, manage it to the end. It looks very simple, straightforward, and easy. That's what you do. I call the project manager more or less an adult babysitter, right? So you have adults in the room, they are quite experienced, they are quite knowledgeable, but your role is to organize them and ensure that, they are focused on one very clear vision. So you organize them, you focus, you ensure that they are aligned to one specific vision. That's what a project manager does more or less from, a high level perspective. If we break it down, there are a million and one things that project managers do. But in breaking it down, let's take a look at some of them. And we'll start with planning this morning. So as a project manager, the core component of what you're doing is planning. So in planning, you want to understand what works need to be done. When does it have to be done? Who is going to do it, right? So that's what planning is all about. So you plan, you try to understand the dynamics of that particular project because there's no two projects that are the same. If you've implemented, for instance, let's say you've done an SAP or an ERP implementation project somewhere, and you move to a different organization and you want to do the exact same implementation, you find that there are differences within the organizations. There are so many nuances into it that, makes each project different from each other. So each one is different and there's no two projects that are the same. So that's something you would find there. Another thing that you do as a project manager is team leadership. So you lead a team, right? So you guide people. Like I said, a project manager sometimes is an adult babysitter. You're motivating them, right? The way you talk to kids and, teach them how to say please and thank you, more or less you're doing it for adults, right? You motivate them. You act as a servant leader. You're correcting people. You're guiding people, though more from an influence perspective, not from the position of authority. Because most of the people you will lead on a project, you won't really find them under the scope of your authority. They would usually have their own functional managers. Your role as a project manager is to lead them and provide that leadership context from the project's perspective. So you're motivating, you're guiding, and helping them to deliver. And then value delivery, organizations set up projects so that they can deliver value. That's one of the reasons you see that project management has exploded in the last 20, 25 years, because organizations want to deliver value. That's what's important to them. And so that's how things work. And then coaching and facilitation. So you're coaching, you're facilitating. When people are making mistakes, you are guiding them to ensure that we all arrive together at success, right? So that's one of the things you do as a project manager. And then you're managing project constraints. What are project constraints? If you've worked in project management before, or if you haven't, project constraints more or less are things like your time, your cost, your scope, your quality, right? So you're managing these things, all these things together. So more or less you're a ball juggler where you're throwing different balls up and you're trying to make sure that no one lands on the floor, which in project management would be, getting things, making sure that things are contained within your baselines. So that's what you're doing as a project manager. You're also leading change management because projects bring about change. When you deliver value leads to change. And because those values lead to change, it helps. One of the things you're doing as a project manager is you are helping guide that change. You are helping make that change, right? So those are some of the things that you're doing as a project manager. And then you're coordinating work, which is like typical, right? I mentioned that the project manager manages a project from ideation to closure. So you are coordinating things, trying to manage all the different components of work. And this is where project integration comes in. So in project management, especially from the Project Management Institute's perspective, there's something called project integration management, where as a project manager, you're integrating the different components of the project. Because as a project manager, you may not be the one responsible for practically everything. So someone else is responsible for procurement. A different department may be totally responsible for quality. Another one may be responsible for audit, and they're responsible for different things. Your job is to coordinate everything and just merge it into one very clear vision. And then last but not least, I will talk about today is leading meetings. So project managers lead meetings. They, get to facilitate meetings every time, similar to what I'm doing right now. So they lead meetings, they guide people, they, in those meetings, you coordinate, you ensure you set the right meeting, the time for the meeting, you send the meetings ahead. When people get into the meetings, you make sure that your conversations are they are fruitful. That's part of what you do as a project manager. Okay, good. So if you're just joining us, thanks for joining once again today. And today we're going to talk about kickstarting your project management career in 2024. For those of us who are interested in project management, so that's what we're going to talk about this morning. I know some of you may have seen things around project management. How do I get started? What do I need to do? This morning, that's part of what we're talking about as well. So, but as an intro, we're talking about what project management is first, and then from there we'll get into how do I get my career started, right? So that's what we're talking about. Let's get to look at the project management industry. So the industry in which project managers play is every industry. So there's no industry where you won't find a project manager. They are everywhere. They're just project managers are more like they are everywhere, the way you will find a virus everywhere. So you find project managers to begin with in IT. So an IT, I'm starting with IT this morning as usual, because IT is where a lot of people have a lot of interest to say, so if I don't understand IT, can I be a project manager and all that and all that? I say, oh yeah, absolutely. There are projects in places that are not IT related, where you are not even, really in the framework of an IT system or, building an IT infrastructure. However, I put the caveat that not understanding what IT is like living in 2023, right, as a human being, and still saying that you want to use you still want to use the landline that you dial, right, that dial landline. So it's possible, it's not impossible. It's just that it's something that is going to be a bit challenging. So having an understanding of IT helps you if you're a project manager. And IT is so wide that you can't understand everything, right? So you understand maybe a specific niche, have a general idea about what IT is, and then it helps you get into the industry or get into whatever role that you're targeting. But one of the key industries that hire project managers or where project managers function is the information technology industry. So in the information technology industry, we've got quite a number of organizations, right? So, sorry, we've got quite a number of domains within the IT industry. So you've got things like computer hardware, software engineering, networking and communication, database and information management, web development, cloud computing, mobile computing, cybersecurity, AI, robotics, machine learning, and so on and so forth. So there's so many things in IT that there's no one person who can say, I have the knowledge of everything, right? You can have a general idea about everything, right? But you have a specific niche that you're focused on. For instance, for myself, if I want to talk about IT, there are niche that I understand very well and to deal more with, the IT service management, IT operations management, dealing with tools like ServiceNow and so on and so forth. I have understanding about some other IT stacks as well, right? But if you look at where I can say, I can talk to you, converse with you for hours on, would be in that area. Okay, so let's look at other industries as well. So you have consulting, which is one of the highest employers of project managers because organizations want to get things done. They want to get it done in a time frame that is time boxed. So they look for a consultant and say, hey, you know what? We want to deliver this in 6 months. We know if we give it to our team, they won't deliver. That's not what they say. I'm just kidding. But they look for a consultant to say, 6 months, you've had all the experience you've delivered for everybody else. Come and help us deliver this in 6 months. So that's why they hire consultants. And in consulting, you find practically every field in consulting. It's just like project management. So you see marketing, sales, finance, HR, right? Strategic management, IT management, and you find a lot of organizations here, popular organizations that some of you would know, like, the Ernst and Youngs of this world, the Deloitte, the Bain and Co, the PwCs of this world. They all play in consulting, right? So you find them hiring project managers every day. If you go on Indeed or you go on LinkedIn and you go look for, a project management role, you would find these organizations hiring every day. There's no stop to them hiring. And then you find project managers in telecoms as well. So voice, data, internet, cloud, and so on and so forth. And then project managers also function in manufacturing. So, chemical manufacturing, mechanical, electronic, additive manufacturing, and so on and so forth. And project managers also construction. This is the grandfather of project management. And here you would find project managers functioning in construction as well. So many project managers, so many project management roles in construction. You find them open every day. You go out there, you see it's still there. Okay. Another one is financial services. So financial services, we're looking at commercial banking, investment banking, insurance, wealth management, and so on and so forth. You would find that project managers work there as well. In retail, so retail, wholesale, sales in general, project managers also function there. We've got medicals and pharmaceuticals. This is one of the areas where you have the highest growth in terms of project management needs. So you have medicals and pharmaceutical companies needing project managers globally. So that's also something, this is also an area, if you're someone who's got a medical degree, for instance, where you can flourish or where you can, come in, right, and build your career as well. So that's somewhere that's something that you can look at. In our last session, we had in the last bootcamp, we had a medical doctor, who's also a senior PM as well, right? So that's an industry that is blowing up with project managers. I think it's the fastest industry if we look at PMI data, where they expect one of the highest growths of project management professionals. Okay, agriculture, everybody eats. As long as you live, you eat something. So for them to do, commercial agriculture, right, large scale manufacturing, food and all that, you need project managers to help guide, to help coordinate, to help manage and all that. So you find PMs also working in agriculture as well. Supply chain, something very dear to my heart. So you find PMs in supply chain, logistics, procurement, warehousing, transportation, inventory management, demand planning, and the list goes on and on in supply chain. So you find PMs everywhere. And you find that because of that, you find within the PMI framework that is a specific knowledge area that is focused on procurement. So you find project managers working in supply chain as well. And then, the second highest based on what we see from PMI data is government, right? So government hire project managers every day. And if you look at the job market data from the US non-farm payroll in the last 6 months, you'd see that government has been one of the consistent employers that have been hiring back to back. As much as we're saying the industry is shrinking, people, organizations like the big techs, they are laying off and all that. Still, they are still hiring by the day. So you find them in government as well. And you find people also in the travel industry. If you're going to travel during this Christmas and New Year period, you find people, you get to the airport and you see everywhere it's jam-packed and people trying to get on the flights. That's because you have project managers there who are working behind the scene and, getting things organized for those organizations. They're implementing a new tool. Find project managers there. They're implementing a new process. Project managers are everywhere. In every industry you can imagine, they're there. And before we get into the trends and key requirements, just to talk about why you find project managers there is because, and I've shared this a couple of times, when you get into an organization, executives are hired by contract ideally. So you see all these senior level people, they are usually hired by contract to say, you are on this job for 2 years, you deliver X for us, we give you X. That's it. They don't get into unionized roles, typically in organizations. So you find those senior level executives, they're hired by contracts, and those contracts, they want to deliver. For them to deliver, they would ask the organizations that they work for to say, hey, I want to bring in this project manager, that project manager to ensure that I deliver on this. That's why you see that projects won't end, because organizations consistently want to deliver. So that's a small intro into what project management is, and then we will get into project management trends and key requirements. Okay, so I know a lot of people joined this morning because they want to know, how do I, get into project management in 2024? That's very, very important to a lot of people who are on the call today, or some of you who are already project managers. How do I make my job better, right? So if that's important to you, then these are the trends that we see in project management in 2024. Some of these trends have been there for years, but the purpose today is to pay some attention to it, right? So you find AI playing a huge role in practically everything that we do today. Who on the call today has not heard about ChatGPT before? If you haven't, I'll guess maybe that person is just coming from Mars, or maybe that person has been in a coma for the last 6 months or 1 year, right? That's AI. So artificial intelligence is playing a big role in the world that we live in today. And as well, it's impacting project management. And I have a specific, section for artificial intelligence this morning, and we'll talk about it. And then, you find things like low code in project management as well. And for those of you who don't understand what low code is, so low code is what organizations use to break that, coding barrier of having developers and all that. So instead of, doing a lot of coding, it has just minimal hand coding. Most of the things have been coded already. It's just, more or less like drag and drops. That's what low codes are. You have to do a little bit of coding, but not something very complex, right? So just giving it, explaining it from a layman terms. And then we're really seeing a lot around lean project management. If you look at the industry, the trend across every industry in the last couple of, I would say months into the last 1.5 years, you've seen there's been a lot of layoffs. Let's exempt the medical industry from this, because in medical industry, in the learning industry, you're seeing more hiring. In government, you're seeing more hiring as well. But in IT, for instance, you're seeing lots of layoffs, because a lot of these organizations I don't want to say beaten more than they can chew, but they've had lots of projects and they were thinking, lots of money will be flowing. So there's been, a little bit of layoffs there. So lean project management help organizations. What they're focused on is how do we eliminate waste? How do we optimize our processes? How do we improve our efficiency, right? Those are the things that they're focused on. So you're a project manager in those organizations now. You don't have too much budget. Within the budget that you have, they want you to manage things. There's no contingency. We're giving you $1 million to deliver within that $1 million, right? So that's a trend as well. So you have to understand the principles of lean. How do you manage waste? How do you minimize the seven different types of waste and all that, specific to project management now, right? And then how does that translate into success for your project? So that's one of the things that you're also looking at as well. Okay. And then we're looking at things like soft skills. Soft skills have been there forever before I was born, right? So soft skills focus on communication, your ability to lead people, emotional intelligence. These are continuously being recognized as vital for project managers, right? So how do you effectively collaborate? How do you build relationships? Especially now that people work from different parts of the world. You find somebody leading a project in the UK, and you have team members in Jamaica, you have some of them in Kenya, you have another one in India, right? So how do you manage these people, right? So soft skills is what you use to manage them. The world is going green. We can see from the last COP that was held, everybody, we're all talking about sustainability now. How do we leave a better planet for our children and our children's children and their own children's children, right? So sustainability has become a key thing in project management, such that some organizations once you're developing a charter or a business case, they are putting in ESG, requirements there of what you need to meet for ESGs, right? And then we're looking at green project management, having environmental friendly practices. They don't want projects that at the end of the day would impact the environment that we live in. So those are things that these are trends in 2024 that are there for project management. Then there's a lot of emphasis on change management. You don't want to deliver something so huge that nobody is using, right? At the end, you want to deliver something that others use, such that the organization sees value. They see that we spent $1 million and this is what it has translated to for us, right? Or we spent $10,000 and this is what it has translated to for us. So that's something very, very important in project management, and especially looking at the trends that we see in the industry as we proceed. There are so many other trends in project management, things like data-driven decision, because data plays a key role in most of the things that we do today, right? They don't want to make the decision just, on the fly. They want to make a decision, a data-driven decision. You find blockchain in project management. There's increased focus in cybersecurity, remote project management, and so on and so forth. These are some of the trends that you see in project management. And then let's talk about AI for a moment. So AI is something very interesting, and I know a lot of us, as I've said, we must have interacted with AI in the last year or this year in one way or the other. Either you're interacting with ChatGPT, Bard, ChatSonic, the Bing AI, and so on and so forth. So AI has become a critical component of the lives that we live as humans, because as human beings, we want things that make our lives easier, and AI has, come with that promise of making our lives easier, though it has its own dangers as well, right? So AI is a key piece that people are really tied to now, and it's informing how projects are being led as we get into 2024, right? So how does AI play a part though? Right. So first thing first, we'll talk about is automated task management. So you see that AI tools can help automate routine and repetitive tasks, such as things like scheduling, resource allocation, progress tracking. You find that you can use AI to help you manage those things. And you see that coming a lot in project management now. So if you're a project manager or you're aspiring to be a project manager, you want to learn how AI works and how can that, help you be a better project manager. What are the tools that are available? What are the tools that are out there? What are the things you can glean from others who have learned, right? Because there's no one person that can learn everything. You learn some and you have some other people learn it and you learn from them as well, right? So that's something that we're looking at in AI. Another thing we're looking at is predictive planning. So AI tools can help you do some predictive planning in the sense that they take a look at your historical data. Maybe there's historical project data. They pick all those historical project data and they're able to do some estimating for you about your future timelines and your resource requirements. So how does this help project managers? As a project manager, it helps you to develop realistic timelines, helps you to develop accurate project plans. Those are some of the things that AI would help you to do as a project manager. So instead of you, in some cases, and this won't be applicable in all, but instead of you doing maybe your analogous estimation or your parametric estimation and so on and so forth, you find an AI tool, it picks data from multiple projects. Instead of you doing all that manually, it picks all the data, helps you organize your schedule. As long as it sees some certain keywords, it can tell you this will take you 2 weeks, this should take you 4 weeks, this is the expert you need. It tells you exactly what you need there. Natural language processing, where you're using things like chatbots and virtual assistants, right, that can help you manage, project related queries, updates, information retrieval, and so on and so forth. And then resource optimization. So we find that AI algorithms can also help you optimize resource allocation by considering various factors such as team member skills, their availability, what's their workload, and this would ensure that you're using your resources efficiently throughout the project. And then you find things like automated reporting. I've used this in ServiceNow before, where it's a different level, where on Mondays, for instance, or you can say on Tuesday at 8 a.m., send these reports to this set of people, and it generates all the data that you've used in the past week or the week, or maybe in the last 2 months, and it gives them the report. You put in the time that you want it to send, you tell it the parameters of the reporting that you want to send, and by the time people are opening their email, they see an email from you, saying, oh, this is what James sent, this is what Shola sent, this is what Bayo sent at 10 a.m. this morning, right? But it's an AI that has sent all those things. It picks your reports, goes into those tools, pick the reports, pick exactly what you want. Maybe it's a burn up or a burn down that you want to send to people based on what you've done, or you want to, send them your churn or whatever you want to send them. It picks all those things, put it into an organized report for you, gives you a demo of it. You look at it, you say, yes, this is good. And it sends it to people at the exact time that you want it to send it to them. And then AI is also helping with, continuous learning and improvement, right? So it picks learnings from past projects. How can we continuously improve our next processes? And then this leads to better project outcomes over time. So those are some of the things that AI is doing in the world that we live in today. I know some people just joined. So for those of you who are just joining, thanks for joining us today. This morning we were speaking about how to kickstart your project management career in 2024. And what are the key things you want to note? What are the trends you want to watch out for? What are the software you want to get to know in 2024 as you get your project management career started? If you have started, right, what are the things I need to improve on, what I do as a project manager? Let's take a look at software. Software is one key thing that everybody is focused on, because people always ask you, so what software do you use? How do you use this one? How do you use that one, right? So let's take a look. We've got a couple here today. So we've got things like the Microsoft project, which is, I would say, one of the grandfathers of software in project management. And you would find tools like Primavera, which were like early tools that we had in project management as software. And you would find very popular Jira. Everybody talks about Jira nowadays. So you find Jira there as well, which is a very good tool that you can use to manage your project. It's very collaborative as well. You find Trello there. You find Asana, there's Monday.com, there's ClickUp, and ClickUp seems to be a very, very, very good tool. And it can integrate into all these other tools and pull whatever you want and just ensure that you're just staying on just one single page. And some of these other tools do the same as well. Monday.com, they do the same as well. So these are tools that are like trendy in the industry. And you find Confluence. So Confluence, Jira, Trello is all made by Atlassian. So one single company makes the three of them. And it depends on what you're doing. That's what you will use those things for. So smart sheets as well. You find things like Rike, and there's so many others as well that because of time, we won't be able to get into them today. You would find, things like Cellulose, you find Hot Planner, you find, Gantt PRO, you find FigJam by Figma, and so many others. And you find in some organizations, they use something as basic as an Excel. If you go to Excel, their Gantt templates are already preloaded on Excel. So you find some organizations, that's what they're using, just something as basic as an Excel as a as a tool. But you need to understand these tools, especially if you want to get a project management job in 2024. You need to know what these tools are. You need to engage them. You need to know them. You need to work with them for you to be able to do your job well. So those are things that are very, very important in getting your project management career started. Okay, I'm going to put in the chat as well this morning. If for those of you who would want who wants access to the videos, please just put in, you can just put in your name and your email in the Google form that is right there, and there's some other information as well there. If you want to follow us, right there, it's there. You want to register for our next bootcamp, that's there as well. Okay. So let's talk about our resume. So resumes are something very important, and I don't I don't claim to be a professional recruiter. I'll just tell you what I know based on my interaction with people, based on, having engaged in some interview sessions as well, leading interviews and sitting there, looking at people's resumes, seeing common mistakes that people make, and how can you make a good project management resume, right? So that's something that is very important. So in developing your resume, these are key things you want to note. So you want to make sure you have a professional summary. Some people don't read beyond it. They say that the average recruiter only looks at your resume. They have only 6 to 10 seconds to look at your resume, because they have like thousands of resumes to look at for one single job application. So how do you ensure that you captivate or you capture their attention, right? So a professional summary is a very good way together everything that you've done, more or less an executive summary to say, I've been this, I've done this, I've done that, I've helped to deliver this, I've delivered X, I've worked in this industry. One quick look, they see it, and then they can say, oh yeah, this looks like one of the guys I'm looking for, before they can then find time to take a look at your resume. And don't forget that AI also plays a part in resume reviews now, right? So all the ATS systems that they use now to sieve for the best fit for the job and all that. So that's something you want to pay attention to. So you must have a professional summary. Ideally, you want to also point to your key skills. For example, if I want to hire a project analyst or a project manager, for example, or maybe a project scheduler, I would have to take a look at their skills. What are their skills? What do they know? Before I even get into an interview with that person, I want to take a look at it and say, this is what this person knows. It gives me the foundation to even invite them or not. So if there's no skill regarding the tools that I've mentioned that the person has on his resume or her resume or their resume, I just won't bother just inviting that person if I was a recruiter, because it's just not going to be a good use of my time. I want some foundations already, and then in the interview with them, building on that foundation. We're looking at your professional experience. So your professional experience would be where you're looking at, the things you've done professionally. And this has to be project specific. So you're focused, you're tailoring it more towards project. Since what we're talking today is about project management, and the career you're looking to build is a career in project management. And then we're looking at education and certifications, right? So what education do you have? What are the certifications that you have out there? Some people have as many as 40, 50 certifications, right? So what are the certifications? How relevant is it to the job, right? So they want to know. So that's something you want to look at in your resume. And then you have project highlights, right? What projects did you deliver? How do you quantify those deliverables? So quantification is something very, very important in your project highlights. What was your role? How did you quantify them? What was the outcome of that project? And then when we get into the ATS, which are the things that help, recruiters, sift through applications, that's an application tracking system, you want to pay attention to your keywords. So because the ATS use keywords and artificial intelligence as well, all embedded in one into one, to pick the right resume for the job. That's why you see that you apply for some jobs. The moment you submit, the next second you're getting a response to say you are not successful, right? So because it looks at it, this person is just not a good fit for this role. They don't want to waste their time. They bounce you immediately, right? And something that I see very commonly, especially in our community, and when I say our community, I mean migrants, is we have a lot of experience, we build a good resume, but the resumes are not formatted right? Somebody picks the resume, it shows that, no attention to details, where you should have caps, you are having, you're having small letters when you should have small letters, you're having caps, multiple formats in the same resume, multiple views within the same resume. It's not organized. That's something that also plays a part in, why you don't get the interviews, and sometimes why you get the interviews, right? And sometimes you get the interviews, they then take a look at the resume and say, my God, I'm not going to hire this guy no matter what he says, because he's not even organized in the first place. I'm looking at his resume and the resume is not well organized. So those are key things that we want to pay attention to. I mentioned at the beginning that this session today is going to be for about an hour, 30 minutes. We'll talk. I'll give you, all the gist for about an hour, and then I'll open it up for questions, right? So you guys can ask questions. Feel free, put in your questions in the chat. Or, when it's open mic time, you can raise your hand. If you've got an advice to give to people in the house today as well, feel free to chat about it and, give others advice, right? So that's it about the resume. Okay, something else that also plays a key part, which a lot of us lack and we suffer from, is mentorship. A mentor plays a big role in people's career. No matter how you think, you're brilliant, your sound and all that, having a mentor plays a huge role in your career, because a mentor is somebody who has worked, the paths that you want to walk, right? And then that person is able to guide you. What does a mentor do? They give you career guidance. They help you develop your skills. A mentor helps you network and tell you where the right networking, where you should be doing your networking. They give you real world insights, right? To say this is what's happening on the project. They know exactly what it is. They can look at your project and tell you this is where it's going to end. It's not like they're using an oracle, right? It's just that they've had the experience, practical experience. So a mentor plays a huge part in practically everything you do, either a career, either your personal life. Having a mentor plays that big role. Building confidence, a mentor helps you build confidence, help you believe in yourself, right? They give you that continuous feedback and tell you the truth on, I think here you're not doing well, there you're doing well, right? This is your strength, build on it. This is your weakness, work on it. That's what a mentor does for you. And I'm speaking to these because I've suffered in the past from a lack of mentorship, and I've paid a very high price for it. And it's something you want to look out for, right? How do I get a good mentor who can mentor me? And remember, it's not just your mentor investing their time. You actually have to invest more time than your mentor is investing in you, right? So it's your role you have a role to play in mentorship. A mentor would create time, they give you guidance. Your role is to, take that guidance and run with it, right? So that's what mentorship is about. And it's very, 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 very critical for you to get into the job, to get a job. It's very important for you as well for you to advance in your career, right? Because a mentor looks at you and, they give you all the things that they tell you as it is, right? That's one of the roles that a mentor would play for you. Okay. Let's take a look at the project management industry and the economy of project management. This is something I've shared before. It's publicly available information based on a research done by the Project Management Institute. It's been published in the Harvard Business Review in 2021, right? That, the project economy is expected to expand from 12 trillion in 2017 to $20 trillion by 2027. So that's huge, meaning that, more professionals will be required as we get into this, as we get into the coming years. There'll be more professionals required in this industry, because the industry is expanding, and is expanding faster than we can actually get people to get there. And the question may come to you to say, oh, but I've been looking for a job for a while and haven't gotten a job, right? And you're saying the industry is expanding. So getting a job is a combination of so many factors. It's not just one, so many. There are too many factors that come into getting a job, right? So that's a discussion for another day. But this is, data. We live in a world that is data driven now. So this is real life data, right? So the industry is expected to expand to $20 trillion by 2027. And I would say it would even be much more than that if you consider the effects of COVID and the fact that there are so many projects that stalled, new projects that started, right? And the need for more project professionals. So that's what's expected in the industry. How many jobs is being expected to be created? 22 million jobs expected to be created by 2027. That's project managers specific now. So expecting to create 22 million jobs between these years that we see here. And we just got about 3 years more to get to 2027. And in terms of general project related roles, 88 million project related jobs are expected to be created in the same time, right? So 88 million project related jobs. There are so many project related jobs that are not the job of a project manager. So you've got analysts, I can go on and on, so many of them. So that's why you see that there's, every time you go, the role that you won't but find on Indeed, on LinkedIn, on, ZipRecruiter and so on, and on Dice and so on and so forth, is the job of a project manager. It will always exist because organizations want to deliver value and they want to deliver it fast. Okay, how do I then become a project manager? Right, so there are different ways you can become a project manager. And guys, the truth is you can do some of these things on your own. So education is key, right? Very important. You get an education. If we look at it in the context of the Project Management Institute, right? So you're expected to get a college degree or a bachelor's degree minimum, right? So that's what they expect. So that's something. So education is important. Experience is another one. So experience is what you gain by doing a job. So that one, everybody in the room is an adult. We know what experience is. So you gain experience by doing a job. So that's very important. And what I see is, a lot of people, we have the education, we have the certifications, but we lack the experience. So I've seen people with masters in project management, some even almost doing a PhD in project management. They have like multiple project management certifications, but being able to do the job is a different conversation entirely. So if you want to be a project manager, you must have the right education. Like I mentioned, college degree, bachelor's degree for the Project Management Institute is the minimum. There are other bodies too that certify project managers in their own way. And you find some of them, like you have the Prince Tools, which is done by Axelos. You have in Europe, which is a very popular project management certification in Europe. You have the Google Project Management Certificate, which is done by Google. For that one, there's really no barriers to entry. You can do it, anytime you want. And then you have the globally recognized PMP, right, which is like the industry leader in project management certification. So, like I said, doing the education, having the certifications, we see a lot of people with that. The experience is what's linking them, what's, the barrier between them and their dreams, right? They don't have the experience. Or sometimes people have the experience, but they don't know how to translate that experience into something that gets them the role that they want. Okay, we're getting close to the end of it today. And then how do I get in, right? So there are different ways people get into a project manager role. Some people get into a project manager role deliberately, right? So they come in, they know from the beginning, this is what I want to be. I want to be a project manager, right? And boom, they are project managers, they're doing it, and they're happy, right? So that's something that you see with project managers. So they are delivery project managers. They study for it, they go to school for it, they get their certification, they get an experience, deliberate. That's That's what it is for some people. For some people, it's accidental. They don't even know, they just get drafted. They are working on something. They say, oh, we need a PM here. They move them there in the organization and they become project managers by accident. I have a friend like that who was, working in an organization, sales manager, and they're like, we need somebody who can be a project manager for a project. He didn't apply, he didn't do anything within his organization. And his boss said, this is the person because he likes to manage people, he likes to work on troublesome things. They moved him there, became an accidental project manager. And then you find people who are unaware that they are project managers, right? They work in roles that are leading projects, but they are not aware that they are project managers. So that's something else that you also find in the industry as well. So you see a couple of these as well in the industry. Let's talk about some project management numbers. So in numbers, you see, I put together some numbers today, just based on some research on what we find in project management. So you see a couple of organizations. You see a couple of organizations working on project manage. You see a couple of things in project management, and these are just some high-level numbers. So you find 89% of organizations hire project managers in one way or the other. And 89% of those organizations reported that they have a project management office, meaning that, project management is everywhere. And you find there are over 90 million people that are in project-oriented roles in different industries today. And then there's, an estimated 16.5 million project managers who are working right now. And then one of the reasons why organizations bring in project managers is a lot of organizations, the research has shown that every 20 seconds, organizations waste about $1 million collectively because they are not hiring the right people who have the skills. They are not, using the best project management practices, right? In total, that $1 million that is being wasted totals to about $2 trillion per year that organizations waste by not following the right project management practices and not having the right people in their project management roles. Let's talk about the PMP. Very interesting certification. So the PMP is globally recognized, is the project management certification that has the highest number of people with that certification in the world by research. And the PMP is held by 1.2 million people globally as at 2023. If you do a small exercise on your Google as we speak right now and just put in the best certification I can have in Google or top certifications, just put top certifications on Google, you see that the PMP is #1 certification that comes out there. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, a project management certification, a project management education is very, very good for you. It's something that helps you in your career. So it's something good that you may want to consider if you don't have a PMP right now. Another thing you see is, like I mentioned, is the #1 certification that you find across multiple industries. And then professionals have recorded or reported that once they have a certification, a project management certification, a PMP certification, it increases their pay by about 25%, right? So that's something that you see also as well with the PMP. Is the PMP a difficult exam? Which is a question people have always asked me. It's neither a nay or yay. It depends on a lot of factors, and I can go into the factors, but because of time this morning, I won't spend time there. So it's, neither here nor there. It depends on so many factors. Let's look at what's in it for me. If I become a project manager, what do I gain, right? That's the as Nigerians would say, that's the 411. So what's the 411 for me? So the 411 is, the money that I make, right? At the end of the day, everybody has to, just looking at, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs as humans, we need to survive, right? After survival, we need to pay for shelter, we need to pay for, food and all that. And to pay for food, you need a salary, more or less, if you don't own your own company. So if you're a salary earner like me, you need a salary, and in earning a salary, what's in it for me? And this is by no means saying is cast in stone. This is an average across. It depends on the year of experience you have, depends on where you're working. So you find people who are project managers earning less than this amount, and you find people who are project managers who earn much more than that. Okay, Biodun, I'll put that in the chat again so you can put in your details there. So you find project managers who earn more than this. You find people in the average, in the in the mid range, and so on and so forth. So you see that, but on the average, how much do project managers earn? It ranges in Canada from 78 to about 135 grand. And then if we look at our big brother or our big uncle in the United States, it ranges between 115 grand to 189K. And that all depends on, like I mentioned, your experience, the industry you're playing in, right? And, depends on a lot of factors. For instance, if you are going to hire a doctor who is a project manager, for example, you won't pay him or her 78K for sure. Because on a good day, if he or she was to be pursuing his profession, right, he won't get that salary. So you want to look at that, because the subject matter expertise that comes with that role is very strong. So that person would naturally command a higher fee than somebody who maybe has, maybe a college diploma. And someone who has a college diploma, if he has built experience over time, can command a salary that's much more than that of, a medical project manager. It all depends on different factors, as I would say. So this data was from July 26 from salary.com. I didn't really feel the need to update it because it's still very relevant as you would find it there today. So that's what we see. And then I know for quite a number of people is, how do I get started? And I've mentioned this before, that you can get started on your own. There are things you can do on your own. So many things that you can do on your own. You can study on your own. You can do so many things on your own, but there are some things that you may not be able to do on your own, right? And also remember that when people move in packs, or you work together with a team, it helps you to arrive at your goals faster. And because most people, on the call today, I know you are, busy, you have a busy life, so many things that you're engaged in, right? So coordinating for yourself is also challenging. And I mentioned that, you can read for a certification, you can read for the education. Experience comes with time, and it comes also with some level of mentorship from people. So we'll get into the last segment today, which is, our practical project management. We'll get into the last session today, which is our practical project management training. And for this, so we've got a class, starting soon. It's starting in January. So it's starting in January next year, January 2024, and it starts January 20 to March 23. And it's a class that happens on the weekend, Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern, and then 8 to 10 p.m. On Wednesdays, same, Eastern time as well. And location is virtual. It's a boot camp that you come in, with zero project management experience, and you leave with a lot of, tons of project management experience. And you want to write your PMP as well. You have the opportunity. You have your PMP already. You don't know what you want to do with your career, or you already have a job as well. You want to be more efficient at it. It's the place for you to be, right? So how do I register? You register here. So your registration here will take details and all that, and they will reach out to you, and then you can make your decision to. We're focused more on practical, hands-on project management. What are the things you're learning? You're learning project management skills. So you're getting into the agile, waterfall, and hybrid methodologies knowledge. You're getting practical exercises and case studies. We're taking a look at your resume. So we'll do a resume review for you. We help you prepare for interviews. How do I get to the interview and wow them and, break barriers and all that? And so we get you prepared for the interviews. You also get to have a mentor, somebody you can call, somebody you can talk to, somebody who can guide you, because it's difficult for Africans, especially, getting into this environment, knowing how to behave, knowing how to, walk. And when I say behave now, I mean professional wise, and I'm speaking to project management. I'm not an HR professional. I don't know, things about, I'm not skilled in HR, but when it comes to project management, that's my own turf. So that's what we're talking about. So being mentored by someone who's got the experience, who's got the skills, who's got, varied experience, and not just one person, right? You have a community that you can tap into. And then for those who don't have the PMP, right? Maybe you want to write your PMP exams as well. So that's something, and it's a limited class size. So it's not, bringing everybody in. So it's limited. You have a specific number that we're looking at, so that it's a class that is manageable, so that everybody gets the right attention that they deserve. It's not one where you can't, once the class is over, you can't speak to your mentors anymore. It's one that is focused on developing you. The focus is not on the money, it's really on providing value to you. In terms of Agile, we cover things like Scrum, we cover extreme programming in depth, we look at Kanban, we look at lean software development, and then we give it some additions like your Crystal methodologies, your scaled Agile framework. We show you how requirements are decomposed, and you do it yourself, right? So you do it yourself, you own it. It's more or less like owning your career, and then you get into the software development life cycle, have an understanding of it. One of the people who attended a session and got a job just this month was really focused on the SDLC and having an understanding, right? And you're able to ask questions, we're able to go back and forth on it. I know we have time for questions, and we're eating into the question time already. Our next information session happens on January 13. If you're interested, so the next information session happens January 13. And what are we focused on? We're bringing in someone who is a project manager, a senior project manager for that, who was in the last session, in the last bootcamp that we had, and got a job from that bootcamp, and they want to come share some of their knowledge of how they work. And that person is a senior project manager for continuous improvement in a biotech industry in the United States. So that's the person we're bringing on January 13 to speak to us and share some knowledge with us. It's going to be virtual as usual. And if you register for the bootcamp as well, you get an invite to that particular session. Okay, so it's time for our questions, but I'll just leave this on the screen for those of us who may, you have questions. Please feel free, put those questions across and we can engage. I've mentioned already that in the chat, you can see our pages. Please follow, like, and share those pages as well, for you to learn a lot about project management and things that are project management related. And you want to get video from this session today, please feel free to drop your name and put in your email as well in that Google form. And you want to register for the bootcamp as well, the link is there as well. Please register through that link, and I'm just going to put that link here as well for those who want to register. So if you want to register, you can register through this link, and then we can then engage from there as well. It's been an awesome time talking to you guys this morning, and I'm going to open it up for questions. And please feel free to ask any question that you feel about project management, about whatever you think it is.